Shalom, my name is Natanya. I am 11 years old, and for the past 2 summers, I've got to Camp Young Judea in New Hampshire. Camp is super fun. I feel more independent and loving with friends, and I love not having my parents boss me around 24/7. When I first went to camp, I was a little homesick, but then I made some friends and I had a great time. Some of my best friends are the ones I made at camp. Our bunk is like a family, and your friends are like your sisters. The counselors are super fun. Some of them are internationals from Mexico, England, and even Israel. They teach us hilarious and sometimes inappropriate words in other languages, and your family is totally clueless. It's super funny. The activities I like most at camp are art, archery, tennis, newcomb, and volleyball, and basketball against the boys. I'm unstoppable. I also really love Maccabiah, which is when the kids are divided into 6 teams by color. People cheer on their team, and by the end, you lose your voice. You scream fun chants and do really fun activities, like a 20-yard dash in swimming and a 25-yard dash in running. Shabbat at camp is nothing like home. It's super fun. There's a Shabbat queen. There is a Shabbat queen. One week, my counselor was the Shabbat queen, and she dressed up as the avocado queen. It was hilarious. My 2 favorite Shabbat songs are I See You and the Shabbat Queen song, where you make up hilarious lyrics about them. Also, Havdalah is really special. You go down to the lake just when the sun is setting, and you stand on the sand and go into friendship circles with your bunk. Cross arms and I'll make a chain and sing songs like the circle game. It makes me feel really close to all my friends in my bunk. I totally recommend that you save your kids off for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or even the full session, which is 7 weeks. That's 2 months. You will not be seeing me for a while. Also, you guys send your kids letters. I even got a couple from my dog. It was mostly a lot of woof woof bark barks, but I'll take it. You also get to send packages with goodies, and your parents sometimes send you with candy, which you have to hide because they will check your package and save it for the last day at camp. I got a box of candy that my dad sent me. Watch out, Dad. Sincerely, Natanya. Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, Shakak and Tanya for inspiring us about summer camp. We're going to turn to some of our older teens. First, Zach Post is going to share about Camp Ramah in New England.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Zach Post, and I'm a 10th grader at Arlington High School. I've been going to Camp Ramah since I was in 4th grade. I'm going to take you through my years at camp by sharing some of my most special memories from each year. Elon note. This was my first summer at camp, and 9-year-old me was terrified of going away from home for a month. My mom told me that I would make lots of friends and have a good time, but initially I doubted her. She was right though, as mothers usually are, and I made friends within the first hour after I arrived there. Something very special that summer was having my first aliyah to the Torah. Camp lets kids lead services, read Torah, and receive aliyot, even though they are not of B'nai Mitzvah age. Having never had an aliyah before, I practiced reading the words for 1 whole hour, which is very long for a 9-year-old. When I got up to read, I was very nervous, but everyone was so encouraging. I got through it and felt so proud of myself. The second I got home from camp, I told my mom to sign me up for the next summer. Sol Elim. My Sol Elim summer, I was so excited to leave my parents for a month and go back to camp. Of course, I made even more new friends, including a couple of my now closest camp friends. Color War was one of my favorite memories from this summer. Every year, Color War has 4 teams that compete against each other. Kachol, which is blue, Levon, which is white, Adom, which is red, and Yarok, which is green. I was on Kachol this particular year, and since the theme was SpongeBob, my team was Squidward, and we got second. Shoafim. I was again really nervous to go to camp, as I had switched bunks. I was in a different physical bunk, but I was also in a bunk with different kids than before. As it had been each summer, though, I immediately became close to the people in my bunk. One highlight for me was leading Chacharate for the first time with one of my friends. I felt incredibly accomplished after doing this. Another memorable thing about Shoafim was that it was my first year having a particular counselor in my bunk, with who I developed a special, close relationship with, Josh Strauss. Something really cool about camp is that your counselors are usually former campers, sometimes along with an Israeli counselor. Josh was a counselor in the other bunk at my Adah for the 2 previous years I was at camp, but would then be my counselor for the next 3 years. During my Bogrim summer, my bunk bought him a brick in the Horshaw to commemorate his effort to making camp fun for us. Magshimim. This summer sadly got canceled due to COVID, so there's not much to say about it. It was going to be my first summer on B side, and I was only going to go for first session since my bar mitzvah was scheduled for late August. That got canceled too. Bogrim. This was my first summer going for the entire summer instead of just second session. I met all of the first session kids and they were all so nice. It felt so great to be back at camp after 2 years away. I was back at my second home. Something new for me this year was putting on a talit and tefillin every day for morning services. At first, I hated it, but I grew to appreciate it. When everyone was really tired in the morning, we had some time to ourselves to put on our talit and tefillin and get ready for Psukei de Zimra. During Bogrim, I also read my Haftorah on the first anniversary of my bar mitzvah. This was a really fun experience and was the first time I ever read my Haftorah in front of people because of my COVID bar mitzvah on Zoom. Machon. On to this year. Machon summer was very different. I only attended first session this summer, and I was having a great time until I unfortunately got COVID. However, many other campers from my Adah also got COVID, and we made the best of the situation. I got to know the people I was in quarantine with so well and made some of my closest friends in there. A lot of it was through Netflix. If I could redo this summer, I wouldn't have changed a thing. All in all, camp has been a massive part of my life, and it is an amazing place, whether I was there for 4 or 8 weeks. I want to thank the Abkowitz family for their support in my being able to go to Ramah every year. If you have any other questions about Camp Ramah, feel free to ask me during Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to invite up Kyler Khan to share some of his reflections about Israel.
Shabbat Shalom. Since I returned from my first trip to Israel with Temple Emunah in 2019, I've been more than eager to go back. Last year, when Mayor recommended me for the Diller Teen Fellowship, I was overjoyed. I'd finally get to go to Israel again. But Diller was much more than just an Israel trip. Throughout the course of the year leading up to Israel, I would join a group of like-minded Jewish high schoolers and form a tight-knit community with them, discussing relevant Jewish topics and developing our leadership and initiative skills. After an exciting and meaningful year filled with learning, Shabbatonim, and community service, our learning would culminate in an epic Israel trip where we'd apply all we learned from our Sunday Mifkashim. Today, I'm going to share with you a little snapshot of my 3-week journey in Israel and what I learned from it. Diller's unique community fostered and inclusive approach to Jewish teen leadership didn't stop once we got to the airport. From the moment we saw our first signs of other Diller teens from Chicago and Pittsburgh at Logan Airport, we jumped at the opportunity to meet them and learn about each other's lives. Once we got to Israel, our trip was divided into 4 main parts. The first part was exploration with just our Boston cohort. We spent several days visiting popular tourist destinations such as the Dead Sea and the Carmel Market, and also learning about Israel's past, present, and future during activities such as an LGBTQ-focused tour in Tel Aviv and an impactful tour of Yad Vashem. I also happened to bump into Meir and Kfir in the Old City. At the end of this week, we took a bus to a hotel outside Jerusalem where I would get my first taste of Diller's massive international community. We spent this weekend in workshops, services, and community bonding with other diaspora communities. This was the first of many times I felt so grateful to have gone on this specific trip. I don't think any organization could have pulled off such an amazing job of bringing Jewish teenagers from 6 different countries into one place and having everyone get along so well for this weekend. After this weekend, I was sad to let my new friends go from South Africa, Australia, the West Coast, and more. But what Diller had in store for us the coming week was my favorite experience of the whole trip, and one that I will never forget. We took the bus up to Haifa to meet our eager partner community, only having spoken online 1 or 2 times previously. The next week, we spent truly fostering a lifelong bond with our friends from Haifa. We learned about their city, shared stories from each other's cultures, spent dinner with host families, and even took surfing lessons, which I was really bad at, but it was still a lot of fun. What stood out to me the most was the host dinner. Ravid's family welcomed me, Max from Boston, and Oshri from Haifa into their home for an evening. We spent hours talking about movies, playing cards, discussing our Jewish lives, and eating an unbelievably delicious traditional Israeli meal that Ravid's mom cooked for us, which may have been the best food I ate during my whole trip in Israel. The more time I spent with my friends from both Boston and Haifa, the more I learned that our communities were very similar despite being over 5,000 miles apart. I could not be more grateful for the week that I spent learning what a regular Israeli's life was like. Unfortunately, all good stories must come to an end, and this story's end involved my getting COVID and having to quarantine for a week. Even in the quarantine hotel, Diller's spirit was still alive and well. The ruach I felt during the International Shabbaton carried over, even though the only space we had to gather was a rooftop deck in Tel Aviv that happened to have a surprisingly good view. While I missed out on Diller's Congress, where all global communities come together for a 5-day workshop, I still got to form bonds with other teens from every corner of the world. I rejoined my group just in time for our Sikum, or concluding days. We spent one last Shabbaton together where we celebrated our partnership with Haifa one last time and then said goodbye to them. We then spent the last day at Machane Yehuda and a chocolate making workshop, and then ate a delicious grilled dinner before we boarded the plane and said our final goodbyes to Israel. While I may have said many goodbyes, I know they're just goodbye for now. I absolutely plan to return to Israel in the future and have many more thrilling experiences there. I also plan to reunite with some of my friends from Haifa during their planned trips to Boston. For those of you who are in high school or are future high schoolers, I highly recommend applying for the Diller Fellowship or any Jewish teen programs. I had a leadership experience that no other program has offered me that will forever have a lasting impact on my perspective on Judaism and leadership. Shabbat Shalom.